And I would just like people to know that according to USDA, we have 2.1 million farmers in the country. But people would be surprised to find out what it takes to qualify as a farmer under USDA rules. It says that all you have to do is have $1,000 of income from farming. Well, it doesn't even say that. It says you just have to be able to have had $1,000 of income. So you don't even have to sell $1,000. If you could have sold $1,000, you'd qualify as a farmer. So all of these statistics are based off of 2.1 million farmers, when the real reality is the true commercial farmers that produce 90% of the food in this country amount to 350,000. So you've got a lot of folks in this system that really aren't farmers. You've got a lot of people that are hobby farmers that farm on the weekend, and they're all being counted and they're all being used in these statistics that people like Mr. Flake and others use. And that's fine, but what we've tried to do in the Agriculture Committee is focus on the real farmers, the people that farm every day, that are commercial farmers that produce 85–90% of the food in this country, and to provide them a safety net that they can get a loan from the bank in the spring and they can survive the bad years and keep farming. And it's not an easy thing, and it's a very risky business, and it costs a lot of money to be in this business on a commercial scale. So we have, unfortunately, in my opinion, and others will disagree with this, we got the system put on us in 1996 under a thing called Freedom to Farm, which I opposed as a member of the Agriculture Committee. And the idea was we were going to have direct payments that were not tied to any production and that were based on past history because prices were good and the WTO wanted us to do this, and this was ideology run amok. And I said at the time, this is not going to work. This is a bad idea, that these prices are going to go down and we're going to have to rescue farmers, and that's exactly what happened. Spent $30 billion 2 years in a row to bail out farmers. That's more than the entire cost of these direct payments over 5 years. We spent that every year for 2 or 3 years to bail farmers out in 98, 99, and 2000. So we get to the 2002 bill and people figured out, well, we got to put the safety net back. And they kept the direct payments. So now we went back to the old system, but we kept the direct payments. Well, if I had to do it, I'd do it different. But that's a system we have. And that's the system that people want, especially in the South, because it's in their financial structure and it's how they organize everything. If I had my way, we'd take those direct payments, we'd raise the loan rates, we'd raise the countercyclical target prices, we'd have a stronger safety net. But the consensus is that we do some of each. So these direct payments serve as a base for farmers to go get a loan at the bank. And for those folks that are concerned about food prices going up, the folks that have been pushing payment limits, what the effect of that will be is to raise food prices. And so if that's what you want to do, you know, that's probably not going to be real popular, but whenever you get the government mucking around and deciding how big a farm should be, which is what you're doing, you are going to make the farms more inefficient, and you're going to drive up the cost of farming. That's what you're going to do. And it's going to increase the cost of goods to consumers. So we have considered this. The committee has looked at it. We are looking at the limitation on direct payments, and there will be some changes in that area. But you know, we've had this debate on the floor of the House. They've had it in the Senate. We appreciate Mr. Flake's input, but we think that what we're doing here now in the committee and the conference committee will be a better outcome that will provide a better situation for our farmers. And,
Gentleman's close.
well, if I just will say very briefly that As I said earlier, you know, we get kind of off the tangents here on talking about small farmers and so forth, but you know, the effect of a lot of these different proposals on reform, the effect of them are going to be to raise food prices for people in this country and around the world. And if that's what you want to do, you know, you can talk to your voters about that. But 23% of the farms in this country have more than $50,000 of sales. But they do 90% of the business, they produce 90% of the food, and they get 81% of the payments. So we already have changed things, but the point is, you know, that $50,000, I think my good friend from Arkansas will agree, in our part of the world is not a real farm. You can't make a living on $50,000 of gross income on a farm. You know, it's just not realistic. So when you get up to a realistic commercial-sized farm, they produce just about all the food in this country. Now there's some small farms that are developing that are doing pretty well, and I've been supporting that, and we're supporting that for the first time in this farm bill, and that is people producing organic, people producing local foods, getting out of the commercial system. So there is a place for small farmers in these niche markets, and they're growing, and that's a good thing. But you go to those niche markets and you're finding you're paying a lot more money for that type of food, and a lot of people want that, and that's great. So, you know, if we get involved in this and screw up this system, the gentleman from Arkansas is correct. We're going to endanger the national security of this country. If we ever get in a position in this country with food that we're at with oil, we got significant problems. And, you know, this isn't a perfect system. When it was established, I voted against it. If I had my way, as I said earlier, I would not do it this way. But this is the consensus of people in the business of agriculture, of the system that we have that works so they can get financing and they can stay in business. And, you know, you hear about the WTO. One of the biggest objections to what I want to do in the direction I'd like to go with farm policy is that we can't do that because the WTO would object. You know, and we've got the World Bank out there getting these developing countries to adopt these free market ideas like some people have done in this country. And the effect of that has been to not help the people. It's made them more food insecure. So, you know, we're never going to settle this debate. As my friend from Arkansas said, we've argued about this for how long, you know. We are going to produce a farm bill here pretty quick. It's going to have a lot of reform in it. It's going to have a lot of new initiatives that we haven't done before in organic, in energy. There's a lot of money in there for conservation. We're going to have $10 billion of new spending above the baseline. After we took a $58 billion hit in the commodity title, we added $10 billion, not in the commodity title, we added it into nutrition. So we're adding $10 billion of spending, and 10.261 of that, and more than we added to the bill, is going to nutrition to help people to cope with these high food prices. So we're doing, we think, you know, the right things, putting in the right kind of initiatives in this farm bill. It's not going to satisfy everybody, but it's moving in what we think is the right direction for the country. And I would encourage my colleagues to oppose this motion to instruct and continue to support the work of the Agriculture Committee.